Ladies and gentlemen, life has a strange way of flipping everything upside down just when you thought you had it figured out. One moment, things seem stable, you've got a plan, you've built something that feels safe, maybe a relationship, a job, a home, a daily rhythm. And then out of nowhere, something hits, a storm you didn't expect, a change you didn't ask for, a door that slams shut without warning, disruption. And here's the truth that few people talk about. Sudden disruption is often divine preparation. You may not see it at first. You may even fight it at first. Because it hurts, it confuses you, it scares you. But look closer. Behind the disruption is a deeper purpose. It's not random. It's not punishment. It's not coincidence. It's a setup for transformation. See, when God wants to change your life forever, He doesn't ask for your permission to make things uncomfortable. He just starts moving. And often, that movement feels like things breaking apart. But what you may see as breakdown is actually the beginning of breakthrough. Because before something new can be built, something old has to be removed. Disruption clears the space for direction. Think about it. If everything always went smoothly, you'd never move. You'd stay where it's comfortable. You'd keep repeating what's familiar, even if it's far smaller than what you were made for. But disruption shakes the ground beneath your feet, not to destroy you, but to wake you up, to remind you that you were not born for survival, you were born for purpose, and sometimes it takes a divine shake-up to push you into that purpose. God allows certain doors to close quickly, so you don't get too attached to places He never meant for you to stay. He lets people walk away, so you learn to walk with Him more closely. He lets jobs end, plans fail, comfort collapse, not to break you, but to build you in a new direction. And when it's divine disruption, you'll often notice that the timing seems unusual. The timing doesn't make sense, but it never had to. God is not working on your schedule. He's working on your destiny. What feels like loss in the moment is often the beginning of alignment. He removes what no longer fits who you are becoming. And while your natural response might be to hold tighter, He's trying to teach you to release. Because release makes room for the next season. The disruption isn't to punish you, it's to prepare you. Prepare you for deeper faith, for new assignments, for doors you didn't even know existed. But in the middle of the disruption, clarity can be hard to find. You'll want to question everything. You'll wonder, why now? Why me? Why this way? And you might not get the full answer right away. But even without the full picture, you can trust the process. You can trust that the hands that allowed the shaking are also the hands that will sustain you through it. If He allows a storm, it's only because He's already secured your survival and your success on the other side of it. The disruption may cost you some comfort, yes. It may even cost you some people, some plans, some pride. But what it gives you is far greater: strength, direction, clarity, and an unshakable dependence on something higher than yourself. Because when all your structures fall apart, that's when your faith gets real. That's when you discover that your foundation was never the job or the plan or the approval of others. Your foundation is Him. And He does His best work not in stillness, but in surrender. And there's something powerful that happens when you stop resisting the disruption and start recognizing it as preparation. You begin to lean in instead of pulling away. You start asking, what is this making space for? Instead of just, why is this happening to me? You look at the rubble around you and realize maybe, just maybe, it's the first step in building something brand new. And not just anything, but something that aligns with your calling, your gifts, your purpose. So the next time life hits hard and everything seems to crumble in an instant, take a breath, pause, and look for the hand of God in the middle of it. You may not feel Him right away. You may not hear a booming voice or see a flashing sign. But trust this, if He disrupted it, He's also designing something better. The storm is not the end of your story. It's the signal that your story is about to shift. Disruption might look like loss, but it's actually movement, divine movement, and though it doesn't always come wrapped in comfort, it always comes laced with purpose. Let that truth settle in your spirit. Let it remind you that even when you don't understand the disruption, you can trust the direction it's leading you toward, because what's coming next It's not ordinary. It's not recycled. It's not just another chapter. It's the kind of change that alters everything, and the disruption that was just heaven's way of clearing the stage. There's a feeling that starts to rise inside you when you've outgrown where you are. It doesn't announce itself with flashing lights or loud voices. It whispers, it stirs, it unsettles you when everything on the outside still looks okay. That feeling is restlessness. Not the kind that comes from anxiety or fear, but the kind that quietly wakes you up at night and says, "There's more." You may not know why you feel it. You may look around and wonder why you're no longer fulfilled by what used to excite you. Why the job you once prayed for now feels like a cage. Why the people you were once so connected to now feel distant. Why your old goals feel flat even though you've achieved them. That inner dissatisfaction, that sense that something's missing, is not failure. It's growth. It's your spirit starting to rise before your circumstances catch up. Restlessness isn't a sign that something's wrong with you. It's often the first sign that something new is being birthed through you. It means the version of you that was comfortable in this season can't carry the weight of the next one. You're being stirred, and that stirring doesn't always make sense to the people around you, because they still see you in your current role, current pattern, current identity. But deep down you've already started shifting. This kind of restlessness is sacred. It's divine. It's what happens when your destiny begins to whisper louder than your routine. You can ignore it for a while, distract yourself with activity, try to numb it with temporary pleasures. But it won't go away, because God never stirs you without purpose. He doesn't wake your spirit just to frustrate you. He stirs it to prepare you. Preparation isn't always comfortable. You may begin to feel disconnected from things that used to define you. You may feel like you're floating between the no longer and the not yet. That's okay. Growth happens in that space. The in-between is not a place of punishment. It's a place of formation. And restlessness is how your soul begins to break away from the ceiling it once lived under. There are moments in life when everything looks fine from the outside, but feels hollow on the inside. That's when you know the current space can no longer hold the fullness of what you're called to do. And that stirring, that deep internal push, that's the call forward. Not everyone around you will feel it. Not everyone will understand why you can't just be content. But contentment isn't complacency, and restlessness doesn't mean you're ungrateful. It means you're being moved. It takes courage to honor that restlessness, because it often leads you into unknown places. You may have to leave familiar environments, shift your priorities, say no to things that once made you feel safe. But the truth is, comfort and calling rarely live in the same place. If you want to grow into the person you were created to be, you have to let the restlessness guide you into new territory. This is where faith begins to deepen, because restlessness won't always come with clear answers. You won't always get a 5-step plan or a visible roadmap. Sometimes all you get is a nudge in your spirit, a whisper in your heart, a quiet inner knowing that says, it's time. It's time to dream bigger. Time to stretch. Time to stop settling for survival and start pressing into significance. The restlessness may show up first as frustration. You may feel blocked. You may feel like you've hit a wall. That's not because you're stuck. It's because you're being invited to climb. You're not at the end, you're at the edge of something new. And that edge may feel scary, but it's also sacred. Because where your comfort ends, your calling begins. There's something powerful about recognizing restlessness as a sign of alignment rather than a sign of lack. When you shift your perspective, you realize that what you're feeling is a signal that you are made for more. Not more in terms of fame or success or applause, but more impact, more growth, more depth, more obedience to the purpose that was placed in you before you were even born. So if you're feeling that stirring today, if you're sensing that quiet but persistent pull, don't ignore it. Lean into it, start asking bigger questions, start seeking clarity, start preparing, because restlessness is not random. It's a sign that something is coming, that something is shifting, that something is next. And when that next arrives, you'll realize why the old things lost their shine, why the routine lost its rhythm, why you couldn't settle anymore. It was never because you were broken. It was because you were becoming. The restlessness you feel is holy ground. It's not something to run from. It's something to listen to, because buried in that tension is your transformation. You're not lost. You're being led, and the place God is taking you. It requires a version of you that's still being shaped. Let the restlessness shape you. Let it build your faith. Let it lead you into the next dimension of your purpose. Not every closed door in your life is a loss. Not every no is a failure. Sometimes the opportunities you begged for, the relationships you fought for, the paths you chased with all your strength were never supposed to open in the first place. And when they close, even painfully or suddenly, it's not always rejection. It's often redirection. It's divine protection disguised as disappointment. We don't like closed doors. As human beings, we crave certainty. We want access. We want movement. We feel validated when doors open, when people say yes, when the path is smooth. So when something doesn't go our way, when a relationship ends, when a job offer falls through, when a dream dissolves, we question ourselves. We question God. We wonder what we did wrong. But the truth is, sometimes that closed door was the very thing that saved you from walking into something that would have destroyed your peace, your purpose, or your future. Closed doors don't always come with explanation. That's where faith is tested, because it's one thing to be grateful when everything works out your way. It's another thing entirely to be thankful when the door slams in your face and you're left standing in confusion. But that is where trust begins. That is where you start to understand that divine timing is not always comfortable, and divine decisions are not always explained, but they are always intentional. Imagine being protected from something that looked perfect, but was secretly toxic. Imagine being shielded from a position that seemed like a dream, but would have compromised your values. Imagine being saved from years of frustration, heartbreak, or burnout, just because the door didn't open. That is protection, and though you didn't see what was on the other side, your Creator did, and in love He blocked it. There are some places you were never meant to enter because they could not contain your calling. There are some people who had to walk away because they would have hindered your growth. There are some opportunities that were removed not to punish you, but to preserve you. Sometimes a closed door isn't an end. It's a beginning in disguise, but when you're in the middle of that season, when nothing is opening, when you're waiting, when you feel like you're being overlooked, it's easy to become bitter. It's easy to feel abandoned. But here's the truth you need to hold on to. Closed doors don't define your worth. They refine your direction, and they keep you aligned with what you're actually meant for. There's a reason some things don't work out, no matter how hard you try. Because if God allowed you to walk through every open door, you might end up in rooms that were never built for you. And just because something is available doesn't mean it's right. Divine protection means that God sometimes limits your access, not to restrict you, but to reroute you towards something better, something deeper, something lasting. You don't always get to see it immediately. Sometimes you look back months or even years later and realize, I'm so glad that didn't work out. Because in hindsight, you can finally see what was behind that door. And when you do, you'll often thank God for what He didn't allow more than what He did. The job that would have drained you, the partner that would have broken you, the deal that would have cost your integrity, the yes that would have taken you away from your purpose. Closed doors are mercy in action. They're grace in disguise. They're a divine declaration that says, you are meant for more than this. Keep walking. And when you choose to believe that, even when you don't understand it, you begin to live with a kind of freedom. You stop striving for approval. You stop begging for access. You stop knocking on doors that God has already shut for your protection. This doesn't mean you don't pray. This doesn't mean you stop trying. It means that when you meet resistance that won't move, when that door stays locked despite your best efforts, you step back and surrender. You say, I trust that if this is not for me, then something greater is. And that's where peace enters, because your confidence is no longer in what opens. It's in the one who holds the keys. The same hands that close the wrong doors are the hands preparing to open the right ones. And when that right door opens, you won't have to force it. You won't have to manipulate it. You won't have to compromise yourself to keep it open. It will be yours because it was meant to be. So the next time you find yourself staring at a closed door, don't just see it as a loss. See it as love. See it as a sign that your path is still unfolding, that your story is still being written, and that what's ahead of you is still greater than what's behind. Because the one who closes doors is the same one who opens them, and when he opens the next one, you'll walk through it stronger, wiser, and more aligned than ever before. There are seasons in life when it feels like no one sees you. No one acknowledges your effort. No one applauds your progress. You show up, you give your best, you serve faithfully, but it seems like your name is never called. You feel overlooked, ignored, forgotten. And in those moments, it's easy to believe the lie that you don't matter, that your purpose has been paused, that maybe, just maybe, you were never chosen for anything great after all. But here's the truth. Being hidden is not the same as being forgotten. In fact, being hidden is often a divine strategy, a place of preparation, a place of protection, and most importantly, a place of development. Think about it. The most valuable things in life are formed in hidden places. Diamonds form deep underground. Roots grow where no one can see them. A seed breaks open in the dark before it ever reaches the light. And you're no different. The seasons where you feel unseen are often the ones where your greatest growth is happening, quietly, silently, but powerfully. We live in a world that celebrates visibility. We measure success by how many people see us, hear us, follow us. And so when we're not being recognized, we feel like we're falling behind. But in God's economy, the opposite is often true. The people he uses the most powerfully are often the ones he hides the longest, because he's not preparing you for a moment of applause. He's preparing you for a lifetime of purpose. When you're hidden, you're being shaped. When no one's watching, you're being refined. When the spotlight is off, your character is being forged. And it's in those unseen places that your foundation is laid, because a shaky foundation can't carry a high calling. So instead of rushing to be seen, embrace the hidden season. Lean into the stillness. Ask yourself, who am I becoming while no one's looking? It's also in the hidden places that you learn to hear the still, small voice of God. When the noise fades and the crowds disappear, you're left with only His voice. And that's where intimacy grows. That's where trust is built. That's where your confidence stops resting on people's approval and starts resting on His affirmation. And when the time comes for your name to be called, when your season of visibility arrives, you'll walk into it with a depth that couldn't be built any other way. You won't just have talent, you'll have substance. You won't just have a gift, you'll have endurance. You won't just perform, you'll carry presence, power, and purpose. You might feel like you're ready for what's next. You might be asking, why not now? Why the delay? But just because you feel ready doesn't mean your environment is. Sometimes God delays your reveal because He's still aligning the right opportunities, the right people, the right platform. He's preparing not only you, but the entire stage you're going to walk onto. And when all of it comes together, you'll see how wise the waiting was. Don't despise the hidden season. Don't waste it. Use it to sharpen your skills. Use it to deepen your prayer life. Use it to become the person who can handle the blessing you've been asking for. Because the truth is, promotion without preparation is dangerous. Exposure without endurance leads to burnout. So if you're still hidden, it means God is still building you. There will be moments when it hurts. When you see others being chosen, promoted, celebrated, and you're still in the background, don't let jealousy grow. Don't let comparison steal your joy. Remember, their journey is not your journey. What's meant for them will find them, and what's meant for you cannot miss you. Your path is unique, and your time is coming. And when it comes, you'll realize that the hiding wasn't a punishment. It was a gift. It gave you the space to grow without pressure. It gave you the time to heal. It gave you the freedom to make mistakes without an audience. You'll look back on the hidden season with gratitude, knowing that it was there, in the quiet, in the stillness, in the shadows, that your roots went deep. So if you feel forgotten today, take heart. You're not overlooked. You're not invisible. You're in a season of divine hiding, a sacred space where heaven is working behind the scenes, preparing you for something bigger than you can imagine. Keep showing up, keep growing, keep trusting, because when your moment comes, you won't just be seen, you'll be ready. Faith doesn't require proof. In fact, faith often begins where logic ends. It shows up when answers are scarce, when the path forward is foggy, when everything around you seems to contradict what you believe in your heart. And that's the paradox of true faith. It's not strongest when everything is going well. It's strongest when everything around you gives you every reason to give up, and you still choose to believe. When life is smooth, when doors open, when prayers are answered instantly, believing is easy. You don't need much faith when the road is clear and your plans unfold exactly the way you imagined. But what about the moments when nothing makes sense? What about the times when you pray and there's silence? When you give your best and see no results? When the people you trusted walk away? When the opportunities fall apart? And when you're left with nothing but questions? That's when real faith kicks in. It's in the silence. It's in the delay. It's in the darkness. Because faith isn't about having all the answers. It's about trusting in the one who does, even when you can't see the way. That kind of faith is powerful. That kind of faith moves mountains, not because of the size of the believer, but because of the strength of the one they're believing in. Faith is a decision, a daily, sometimes moment-by-moment decision to trust when there is no evidence. It's believing that your life still has purpose even when you feel lost. It's declaring that your breakthrough is coming even when your situation hasn't changed. It's standing firm not because you feel strong, but because you know that even in your weakness, you are not alone. There's a special kind of strength that's built in seasons of uncertainty. It's forged in the fire of waiting, in the pain of unanswered prayers. When you choose to keep going, when you keep speaking life over your future despite the silence, you are building a kind of spiritual resilience that no circumstance can take away from you. People often think of faith as a feeling, but the truth is, faith can exist even when fear is present. You can be uncertain and still faithful. You can have doubts and still move forward. You can feel the weight of worry and still decide to trust anyway. Because faith isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. And sometimes the reason the evidence is weak is because you are in the middle of a process. You're not at the end of the story. You're in the part where it looks like nothing's happening, where it feels like the promise is too far away. But just because you can't see the full picture doesn't mean it's not coming together. That's what makes faith so powerful. It allows you to act today like the miracle is already in motion, even when your current reality says otherwise. It takes great strength to believe in what you cannot see. To trust that the seeds you've planted in prayer will one day bear fruit, even if it takes longer than you expected. To walk in obedience even when there's no applause, no confirmation, and no visible reward. But that kind of faith is exactly what stretches you, what matures you, what molds you into someone who's not just chasing blessings, but someone who becomes a blessing. You will always be tempted to lean on what's visible. You'll look at other people's timelines and start to wonder if God has forgotten you. You'll hear voices in your head saying, if it hasn't happened yet, maybe it never will. But that's when you need to fight the hardest. Because the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Just because you don't see the result doesn't mean nothing is happening. Some of God's greatest work is done in silence, in mystery, in the hidden places. Sometimes faith looks like continuing to show up. Sometimes it's praying again, hoping again, applying again, forgiving again. Sometimes it's just waking up and refusing to quit. And when you do that, when you choose to believe when it would be easier to give up, you're not being naive. You're being courageous. There will be people who don't understand your faith. They'll call it foolish. They'll tell you to be more realistic. But remember, it's easy to mock faith when you haven't had to walk through darkness. It's easy to question it when you've never had to hold onto a whisper instead of a guarantee. Don't let the doubters shake your spirit. Your walk is your own. Your journey is sacred. One day, the evidence will come. One day, what you've believed for will be visible to everyone. And when that day comes, you won't look back and wish you had doubted more. You'll be glad you held on. Because every moment of silence, every tear shed in prayer, every step forward in faith will have been worth it. So if today you find yourself surrounded by uncertainty, take heart. You're not lost. You're being led, and your faith, even in the absence of evidence, is the very thing that's carrying you forward into the promise. There's a moment in every journey when waiting feels like the hardest part. You've dreamed, you've prayed, you've prepared, and still the door hasn't opened. Still, the answer hasn't come. Still, you find yourself in the middle of a delay you didn't ask for and can't fully explain. It's tempting to assume that delay means denial, that because it hasn't happened yet, it never will, but that couldn't be further from the truth. A delay is not a no. A delay is not a rejection. A delay is often a pause filled with purpose. There is something being worked out that goes beyond your timeline and deeper than your understanding. Sometimes, what feels like a delay is actually a divine detour, God's way of positioning you in exactly the right place at exactly the right time. We live in a culture of immediacy, fast results, instant feedback, quick answers, so when something takes time, we grow restless, we wonder if we misheard, we wonder if we made a mistake. But some of the greatest things in life take time to grow. The things that last, purpose, character, legacy, aren't built overnight. They require process, pruning, and yes, often delay. Imagine receiving the blessing you've prayed for before you're ready to handle it. Imagine stepping into a space your character hasn't been prepared for. That kind of premature arrival may feel good in the moment, but it can lead to collapse under pressure. Delay can be protection. It can be preparation. It can be God's way of building the strength and wisdom you'll need to carry the weight of your calling. And here's something powerful to consider. Just because you don't see movement doesn't mean nothing is happening. Seeds grow underground long before they break the surface. Construction happens behind scaffolding before a building is revealed. Progress isn't always visible, but that doesn't make it any less real. You may not feel it, but something is shifting. You may not see it, but something is aligning. You may not hear it, but something is being prepared for your arrival. Delays teach us patience, but more importantly, they teach us trust. Trust in the process. Trust in the purpose. Trust in the one who sees the end from the beginning. It's easy to trust when things are going your way, but trusting during delay, that's the test of maturity. That's when faith becomes real. You see, delays are not designed to discourage you. They are often divine tools to develop you, to build something within you that success alone could never shape, strength, endurance, depth, perspective. Delays build resilience that you can't fake and wisdom that you can't buy. The kind of wisdom that keeps you grounded when you finally reach your breakthrough. And make no mistake, your breakthrough is coming. It may not come the way you expected, and it may not come when you wanted, but it's coming. The delay you're experiencing today could be the very thing that makes your story more powerful tomorrow, because the truth is, the longer the wait, the greater the glory. The more challenging the road, the more rewarding the destination. Don't confuse silence with absence. Don't mistake delay for desertion. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. You are not too late. What is meant for you is still on the way. It's just not on your clock, it's on a clock that runs according to a higher wisdom and a greater plan. Use the delay wisely. Don't waste this time in frustration or fear. Use it to grow. Use it to refine your vision. Use it to heal, to learn, to sharpen your skills, to deepen your faith. There's something in this season that you'll need in the next one. Don't rush past it. Absorb it, let it shape you, and when you finally step into what's been delayed, you'll step in with clarity, with confidence, with gratitude. You'll understand why it couldn't come a moment sooner. You'll realize that you weren't waiting on the blessing. The blessing was waiting on you to be ready for it. And in that realization, you'll see that the delay wasn't the enemy, it was the preparation. So hold your head high, even in the waiting. Stand firm, even in the silence. Keep walking, even if the road is longer than you expected, because delayed does not mean denied. What's ahead of you is still unfolding. And if you don't give up, if you stay faithful through the delay, you will see doors open that no man can shut.